Hey, it's Bedrest Coach Darline Turner-Lee, owner and founder of Mamas on Bedrest and Beyond. And today it happened, people. I'm going to dive right in and say, holy, I can't believe that the Supreme Court actually upheld the entire Affordable Care Act. I have to say, I was really of the opinion that they would strike down the personal mandate thing where people had to buy insurance and maybe uphold the rest of it. But when I started getting tweets and messages on my emails and everything that they actually upheld the entire law, I was like, whoa. Now, it would be really easy for me to sit here and talk about all the implications. And let me tell you, there are many. I am not even going to try to go through the political and some of the business ramifications because, quite frankly, I am not that skilled to do so. I mean, there are political pundits and analysts that are way more qualified to address this issue than I am. But I am going to say this. There are a couple of real specific reasons that I was holding my breath about the Affordable Care Act. And I'm going to share those here. And they relate specifically to mamas on bed rest in particular, and in one case just to mamas in general. First and foremost, as the Affordable Care Act relates to mamas on bed rest, one of the biggest problems for women in this country is when they become pregnant, being able to be financially secure while they're on maternity leave. I mean, the reality is nobody pops out a baby and is back to work the next day. There are a couple people who've done it where they'll say, oh, 3 days postpartum, I was on the treadmill. One, that's horrible for your body. We won't even go into that. But two, just the actual stress and strain, and it's stress and strain on your body of having a child, requires some recovery time. And for many women, the 6 weeks that they may be entitled to, paid or unpaid, is just not sufficient. When we compound that issue with bed rest, in which women can be unable to work, homebound, bedbound even, for anywhere from a few days to several months without income, it just becomes a huge issue. Now, because of the Family Medical Leave Act in this country, most women are guaranteed 12 weeks off with job security, but that is still not financial income. Now, we know many women who go on bed rest. If you go on bed rest at 26 weeks, there are 14 other weeks that you are going to be, you're pregnant, but you're not at work. You may not be drawing salary. Your family's financial situation may be become really questionable, and this is an issue. If you are the principal wage earner of your family and it's your job that carries the health insurance benefits, if you lose your job, you then lose your health care, which means you then don't have prenatal care. You can't necessarily get on another policy because you have a pre-existing condition. And I mean, do you see how this rolls downhill and spirals? For women who may not be the principal wage earner and their husbands or partners, I will say partners, have the health care insurance, if something happens and they have to be put onto a policy as it previously stood, many women could not be put on the policy because they were pregnant, a pre-existing condition. Compounding that with the fact that they were on bed rest, saying they have a high-risk complicated pregnancy, which we knew was going to then require more care, more treatment, more utilization of resources. Insurance companies were saying, hey, no, we don't want that. We're not going to take it on. And women were being denied coverage. With the Affordable Care Act, this can't happen. This is just an amazing benefit for women and for pregnant women. And I'm just so happy that this is still enforced and in play. I mean, people will talk about, civil liberties, you can't tell me what to do. I'm not even going to get into all that. We can go on and on and on. I can bring up buku different arguments, but the fact that I'm going to deal with today right here is that women who go on bed rest are going to be guaranteed prenatal care, regardless if it's just monitoring while you're on bed rest to, full-blown induction, cesarean, and, whatever else, other type of interventions they may need. They're going to get what they need, they and their babies. taking it one step further, let's talk about the babies. I sometimes hesitate to bring this up, but the reality is if you're on bed rest, you're at increased risk of having a premature baby, preterm infant. And, it's scary and everything else, but it's the reality and we need to talk about it. I've put this in a blog post before that no one ever talked to me about that. So when my daughter was born early and went to the neonatal intensive care unit, I was like, what the heck? Because everybody had said, oh, you'll have your baby, she'll room, she will room in with you and it'll be great, it'll be wonderful. It was 12 hours before I held my child. I mean, they took her out and she was gone. And I kept saying, where's my baby? Where's my baby? And, and it's just a whole traumatic thing. Luckily, my daughter, she was in the neonatal unit for 10 days. Compared to many babies, it's a drop in the bucket, but it was still stressful. It was still scary. It was just a very dramatic experience. I'm very fortunate in that, okay, she has asthma. She had pretty severe asthma as an infant and young child. She's great now. She's 9, almost 10. But, we got the bill when we got home from just her being in the NICU. And it was like tens of thousands of dollars. And we were like, holy crap. I mean, if we had to pay that, it wouldn't have bankrupted us, but to be sure, it would have put a really tight clamp on our financial situation. And thankfully, we were insured and we were able to care for her and have the resources that we needed for her. Well, what about the families who aren't well insured or insured at all? And if you have a baby who is a preterm infant, let's say a 26-week or 26, 28 weeks, we know these children are going to have sometimes a multitude of problems. They're going to be in the NICU for months. They're going to be in the NICU a lot of times until they reach their term age. So 26 weeks is roughly, 6.5 months or so. So another 2.5 months, 2.5, 3 months, they could spend in the NICU. And, that's just adding up. We figured out, and this was back in 2002, it cost roughly $1,000 a day in 2002 for my daughter just to be in the NICU. We're not talking about the monitors, any IV fluids, medications, anything that they used. That was just for her, that little tiny little bed she was on, for her to be in there. I mean, for people whose babies are in those little isolettes, who are on oxygen, CPAP, all the different monitors, specialty nurses, pulmonary, chest x-rays. We can go on and on. The bill gets out of hand. And if you, depending on the type of policy you have, or if you are uninsured, it's pretty scary because you are going to be faced with this bill. Additionally, now, the way my husband's insurance worked is once, she was born, he immediately called the insurance company, said, okay, the baby's born, baby girl, date, time, the whole 9 yards, and she was immediately put on the policy. There are many insurance companies and insurance policies who, if they realized she was preterm, that she was in the NICU and all this other stuff, might have said, we're not covering her. They do that. This type of stuff happens. And if you have a 26-week baby or a 28-week baby who's going to need buku care, to say we're not going to insure them, we're not going to put them on the policy. I mean, what is that? The Affordable Care Act prevents that. You cannot say we're not going to insure you because you have a pre-existing condition. In this case, you were born. You were born early, so we're not going to insure you because it's a pre-existing condition. Let's talk about some of the kids who come out with developmental things. Cerebral palsy is somewhat common in preterm infants because of all the different things that can happen. We know these kids need lots of occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy, just all kinds of developmental things that cost a lot of money. They'll have vision problems, possibly hearing problems, muscular problems, all these different things.